episode 9 of the Australian Muscle podcast. This episode is brought to you by Australian Muscle and Australian Muscle the Gym. Check out australianmuscle.com.au for all your supplements with free Australia-wide delivery. If there was one person in Australian bodybuilding that most people know, that is Nick Jones. Known as Mr. Personality, Nick has been and still is an icon in the bodybuilding, fitness and supplement scene. First and foremost, Nick Jones is a sports nutritionist whose goal is to improve quality of life and enhance performance through superior nutrition, exercise and specific supplementation. Nick's dedication to bodybuilding has paid dividends throughout the past 20-odd years and has been justified by his achievements through local, national and international platforms. His achievements include Mr. World, Mr. Australia, Mr. Australasia, and first runner-up in the prestigious Mr. Universe competition. I have personally known Nick since his first foray onto the stage as a junior competitor in the 90s, and am proud to call him my friend. In this episode, we discuss Nick's international competition, his forced retirement due to chronic fatigue and depression, and his inspirational comeback to the stage, and much more. Hey Nick, how are you?
Good, Kimmo. Good. Sitting in beautiful Glenelg Beach in Adelaide.
Here we are overlooking the ocean, and it's a pretty nice view.
And it's going to be 45 degrees today, I believe. A typical, well, I say it's a typical Adelaide summer's day, but it's a very hot summer's day.
It's a little bit over the top, yeah. How you been?
Been good. Been busy, which is no different to normal.
Yeah.
No different to normal with 3 children, a company to run, and all my training to do, but I've been extremely busy because I'm prepping for a show.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit. Before we go into anything, you want to just give... look, everyone knows you. You're like Mr. Personality, Nick Jones. I wanted to ask you about that. What do you think about that
Wayne
persona?
Galash. Well, Wayne, that was Wayne. And we were just talking about Wayne briefly. So that was Wayne Galash's title for a DVD that we filmed, or it was a video, it was a VHS. We filmed back in '99, 4 weeks after the NABBA Universe. So I didn't really have a say in it. He just released it, as he does, and that was the name of the video.
Because I did a Google search on you yesterday, and that comes up on so many sites.
Oh, you're kidding
and descriptions of you, Mr. Personality.
But that would be from Wayne. That would be from Wayne Galash.
But that wasn't on Wayne's sites. It was on all other sites.
You're kidding me?
No, and I was thinking down there, would you rather be called like Mr. Destroyer or something?
I'm good with Mr. Jones because I get called all sorts of stuff, to be honest, mate. So Mr. Jones is good. That's funny with children going to school now. Their friends call me Mr. Jones. The teachers call me Mr. Jones. It's funny. It's funny. Mr. Personality.
Well, give us for the few listeners, we might have 1 or 2 who don't know you.
Yes.
Just a quick overview of who you are, how do you you've got extensive competition history. You're now a successful businessman. Who is Nick Jones?
I guess depends how far down the rabbit hole we go, but in I guess in society and in our fitness industry and our supplement and health industry that we're in, I'm a world champion bodybuilder. I've won many national titles, Australasian titles, couple of world titles. I placed 2nd at the NABBA Universe. So I've got a fairly successful amateur bodybuilding history. So I've been known as a bodybuilder. And again, bodybuilder, it's what I am. And it's if you're judged by what you do as to what you are, I'm a bodybuilder. But I love martial arts as well. So I'm a martial artist. I founded Gentech Nutrition Supplement Company back in '99, as you say. So I'm a businessman. A very bad one to start with because I was a pretty bad scholar, to be honest. I left school at 15, or was politely asked to leave at 15, so yeah, I'm a bodybuilder, a businessman, and probably most important role in my life is I'm a father of 3 and a husband.
Yeah.
So that's sort of it, I guess. That's it. Yeah, and I juggle between all of those things, between martial arts and bodybuilding and running Gentech and family, and try and juggle the whole thing, and that's what I do.
How old are you?
47.
47.
47 years young. Yes, 47.
Yeah. Cool.
Born in 71.
Yeah.
It was a year of the pig. It was the year of the boar.
Yeah.
Of the boar,
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember you in your first shows in NABA here in South Australia. So, are you a South Australian?
No, I was born in Essex in the UK.
Yeah.
And I've got that Essex boy in me. I've got that wild streak in me, there's no doubt. But I was born there and we moved to Adelaide. Mum, Dad and my brother Chris, who's 18 months older than me, we moved here when I was about 18 months old, just a baby. So I feel South Australian. I feel very Australian. And I lived in SA most of my life. It's only been the last 9 years I've been in Sydney. 9 years, and geez, that's gone quick. I lived in Queensland a couple of times for short spurts, where I've got some very close friends, but I feel very much South Australian.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, based on all that, we could have an 8-hour podcast.
Yeah, we're not going to do that though. We've both got other work to do. But
yeah, we're not going to do that. So there's a few things I'd like to touch on just over your bodybuilding and your business and even your personal life to a certain extent. But tell us a little bit about your first big international victory was the Mr. World.
Yeah.
The Mr. Universe, NABA Mr. World. That was in New Zealand, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
In 2000.
In 2000. That was my first, that was my first international victory. You want to know about that?
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about competing overseas. And you came second in the Mr. Universe in 2002.
Yes.
So maybe just give us a little bit of an insight into what it's like competing at that level, what the show's like and things like that, the day. Yeah, I'm always really interested in the competition day at international level. You know, you see the glamour of all the pictures, but what's the day like?
The NABA Worlds in New Zealand was a smaller World Championships because not so many of the Europeans travelled all the way to NZ. So, and it's not a big trip for us. We could almost swim there. God bless the Kiwi. We love the Kiwis. Our history with the Anzacs. So when I won the Worlds, it wasn't the greatest experience, which might sound a bit strange because I wasn't in my best condition. I'd won the Australia 2 weeks before at a really good Australia, probably one of the best I've heard from a lot of the old timers, one of the best ever. It was in 2000. In that was a great show because I nailed my condition and then I was off a couple of weeks later at the Worlds. Still good enough to win, but when you're not in your best shape, it's never as good as experience, no matter where you place. Winning the Nationals was pretty cool. That was run by a fellow Finn, Ari Hämäläinen. When I say that, Kimmo's Finnish, if anyone doesn't know. So Ari, that was his last NABA show that Ari ran, and that was the class winners were myself in class 4, Grant Mayo, who's now the head of Nutrition Warehouse.
That's right.
Mayo done unbelievable things. Mayo won class 3 because Charlie Duca didn't do it. He went straight to the Worlds. Where Charlie won the overall. But Duca won class 3. Gary Vandenberg, fellow South Australian, who was awesome, won class 2.
Yes.
And he was probably pushing me for the overall. And Brian Anthony. So Brian returned to NABA after being an IFBB pro. And probably, I'm very fond of Brian, so I mean it with no disrespect. He probably thought he was going to walk that one and win it pretty easy, but we were of a pretty high standard then. So the Aussie team that then went, I won the overall obviously, then the Aussie team that went to the Worlds was very strong. Charlie Duca won class 3 in the overall, Mayo got second to him in the class, I won class 4, Vandenberg won class 2 at the Worlds. Brian Anthony didn't go, Brian didn't go to the Worlds, he should have. Gary Gwynn, an American, won his class, and Guy Grundy, Australian, came over from the US and got second. He was a bit off, was Guy, but so it wasn't the best of experiences, to be honest, just because I was a little bit off, even though I won a world title.
Did you win? You won the overall?
No, I just won class 4. Charlie Duca won the overall. Charlie won the overall quite easily. I was a bit off, like my condition was off. I didn't deserve to win the overall. The NABA Universe is a different beast, right? So the NABA Universe, even not winning the NABA Universe, I had better experiences at most NABA Universes.
You competed a few times.
I did 5. I did 5 NABA Universes. The first one in '97, along with my good mate Justin Wessels, who's getting ready for his IFBB Pro debut at the Arnold Classic. So '97 was my first universe. I did 5 NABA Universes. So I got a 6th, 2 fourths, a 3rd and a 2nd. So I had a fair bit of success, always making the top 6, always doing my routine, always getting a trophy, always being on the DVD. Because only the top 6 get to do their routine and get the trophy and get on the DVD. So I had a great experience every time, apart from 2001. And the reason I didn't again was my condition was off, and I placed 6th. So '97, I placed 4th. '98, I went back and got 3rd. I'd improved so much to 99 and thought I was going to win. That was the best condition of my bodybuilding career, was the NABBA Universe in 99.
Yeah.
So I've gone over there thinking I'm going to win. And as it happens, the best class 4 lineup in history rolls on stage. And I got 4th, and I was really happy to get 4th, to be honest, because it was such a fierce lineup. I mean, there were 2 guys that didn't make the top 6 who 2 weeks later turned IFBB Pro in England.
Yeah.
One of which, Colin Wright, got, I think, 8th in the British Grand Prix 3 weeks later. Just behind Nasser El Sombadi.
Back then, people don't realise that the NABBA Universe was really the pinnacle of amateur bodybuilding.
It was.
And a lot of Universe winners and even place getters actually then went to IFBB and are now IFBB pros.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
that was the road,
those
wasn't
guys
it?
were beasts.
Like it was awesome. You had to have been there to experience the professionalism of the day and how well it was run. I was never experienced anything like it. There's a competitor's hotel, so they book out the hotel. So we used to get our airfare paid if you'd win the overall nationals. Your accommodation was looked after, and it was full of the competitors at the NABBA Universe. And yeah, the standard of competition was awesome. Like a lot of the guys that were bigger and leaner than the IFBB pros, but didn't have as pretty a shapes.
Yeah.
So a lot of these Europeans were a bit thicker in the waist and knees and joints, but big and shredded, Kim. So, I used to go over there and sit down and talk a lot, and we'd all share information. So it was a real brotherhood, to be honest. Even when you couldn't speak the other person's language well, a lot of the time you'd catch up because you'd see them year after year. And a lot of the British, they were crazy, those guys. They were really experimental with their training, with their supplementation, all aspects of their bodybuilding, and they found out what makes you big and what gets you shredded at all costs, So it used to be fascinating, some of the information, but the contest was so professionally run. The athletes were such a high standard. Like I said, guys that didn't make the top 6 in 99 went on to be IFBB Pro. But I guess Arnold and those guys paved the way, and that was always my train of thought was, why become an IFBB Pro if you can't win a NABBA Universe?
Yeah.
You win the NABBA Universe first, and then you're of a standard where you can stand on an IFBB professional stage and look good. Not look out of place, but look good and be at least competitive to a certain degree. So I guess Arnold and those guys, paved that platform.
That's right.
Yeah, and pathway.
Yeah.
Amazing experiences, the NABBA Universe. Incredible standards.
What was your competition weight back then?
I sort of ranged from, I think my first one I was about 85, 86 kilo in 97. Up to 90. I was 90 when I last competed in 2002, and they liked you big, so I placed second.
Yeah.
And I even Wayne Galash thinks I got pipped there. He thought I should have won it. Wayne thought I was going to be the first South Australian to win a NABBA Universe. I thought I was going to win 2002, but again, I got second. It's the harshest place in bodybuilding. Harshest placing. I'd rather get third.
Yeah.
So I got second in 2002 at my biggest, because NABBA, they like you big. I was 90 kilos, about 5'6", just under.
So 2002 was your last year?
That was my last one.
Yeah. And then
chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah.
Chronic fatigue. I hit the wall. I went from looking and feeling like Superman in October 2002 at the NABBA Universe to January 2003, couldn't get out of bed. Didn't really get out of bed for 6 months with chronic fatigue syndrome. It was the second time I'd experienced it in my life. The first time I was 21 years of age. This second time I was around 30. And I just burnt myself out, basically. And I had a history of the glandular fever, the Epstein-Barr virus. So that's a part of it. But ultimately, I'd burnt myself out because I had started Gentech 2 years prior. So I'm trying to juggle business, compete at an international level. And to be honest, I probably trained too hard for too many years. I was competing every year. I'd have 1 week off of training after the NABBA Universe, and then I would start prepping for the next year's show. And that is training like a lunatic to put on muscle.
Yeah. Training
like a man possessed, rain, hail or shine, sick or healthy. I'd be in the gym, squatting over 200 kilos, week in, week out, And, there's a whole host of things that led to it, but chronic fatigue syndrome set in early 2003.
Yeah. And how long did that take to recover?
Well, I didn't compete again for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I thought that was it for me. I went to such a dark place. You go through the fatigue, you can't get out of bed, you can't run your business, you can't do anything. You get up and have a shower and you're exhausted and go back to bed to sleep for 6 hours. So the depression that then sets in with the chronic fatigue is horrible. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, so much good, so much good and beauty came out of that, such a dark time. And it was dark, it was pitch black. I was in the bottom of the depression pit for some time, probably 12 months, a bit over 12 months it would have been. I just couldn't get out of it. I couldn't see any light whatsoever. So that was a really, really shitty time.
Did you deal with this alone, or did you have
look,
around you?
I had people around me, but no one really identified.
Yeah.
You know, the depression. Mum mentioned it one day, and when she mentioned it, I remember the feeling like I wasn't alone. You know, and I hadn't really admitted to myself that I had depression as such. I guess it was just I had fatigue, this horrible fatigue, and couldn't do anything. My partner at the time obviously didn't know, but you know, she supported me, but didn't really know and didn't get the support. Robbie Kolinich was the one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Robbie Kolinich, yeah. English bodybuilder. I think he won the Mr. London many years ago, and Robbie's been living in South Australia, as you know, for many years. Robbie went through it as well. I guess it's something that a lot of elite bodybuilders do go through, is the depression, and a lot of elite athletes go through it once they finish up their sport.
That's right, yeah.
And I hadn't retired. I was forced to not do my bodybuilding because of the chronic fatigue.
You had no plans, and you were still focusing on winning the universe.
Yeah, I still wanted to win the universe. Yeah, second was just fired me up, you know, just fired me up to go back. I remember getting second though, and I remember just thinking, what else do I have to do? I remember getting announced second on stage.
Yeah.
And that was a real, like a kick in the nuts. It really buckled me, you know, it really did. And I've never been affected by a decision so much, but it wasn't that. It was like, I knew I didn't have anything left. I knew something within me knew I had nothing left to give. Yeah. And I still didn't win it. I remember the feeling. It was like getting kicked by Paul Slawinski in the nuts. I reckon. I reckon it was. So yeah, that was that. And yeah, so it was a long comeback. I didn't compete again until 2006. So it was 4 years of battling the depression and battling the fatigue, and I came across a great doctor, Dr. Frank. You know, he's a chiro, osteopath, naturopath, kinesiologist, acupuncturist. He was like the angel that appeared and supported me and helped me, and he was the one. Yeah. He was the one that helped me, and also helped me to be able to help myself and do all the personal work I had to do. So it was quite a long process, 4 years, and it was a very in-depth process. It wasn't a physical thing. It was physical. I had to be treated with the chiro and so forth. It was mental and emotional, so I had to do the deep work. And I'd done meditation before, many years before. I'd done the meditation, I'd done the yoga before. I'd just gotten away from it. So I had to do the head work, had to do the spiritual work, and I had to the chemical work. So it was like a detoxing, eating for my blood type, reducing my supplementation, my food, the gear that I was using. I'd stopped that anyway. So there was a reinvention that happened over that 4 year period that ended up being a beautiful transition. So I did reinvent myself as a bodybuilder, and I reinvented myself in many ways. So it was, again, out of such a hard, shitty time, Kim. It was you know, the hindsight's a beautiful thing. It's something Graham Lansford always says, hindsight's a beautiful thing. But always through struggle comes growth, you know. Yeah. Always through stress comes growth. It was too much stress where I broke down. And it's funny, you know, when I think of that, it rings true with bodybuilding. Bodybuilding training's so metaphorical that stress creates growth, right? We know that. We go in the gym every day, put our muscles under stress and load to cause them to grow. Yeah. If you do too much of it without the rest and recovery and without the mindfulness, you cause overtraining, you cause breakdown. It's distress, becomes distress. So it doesn't cause growth when you're just copying too much of it. Yeah. But that little bit of stress causes growth. So very metaphorical and very true inside of the gym and out.
So you did a comeback then in 2006. Yeah. So when did you think before that I'm gonna come back? You know, there must have been like a year beforehand of prepping and training, because you didn't obviously train a lot during this time.
I didn't train much. I kept trying, Kim. I kept trying all the time, even when I had the depression, because I knew that was one thing I knew that would make me feel better. So I'd go to the gym.
I was just going to say that, because I think the training is most probably what got you through,
Yeah.
because I know
through a
how
lot of
much
tough
better I
times.
can have the most horrible day, feel terrible, but if I go to the gym and train, I know for a little while I feel great.
Yeah, definitely those
Yeah.
endorphins and
That's right.
And the achievement, the self-discipline you exercise. That's the funny thing. I kept trying to train. I'd go to the gym. I'd go to the gym when I had the fatigue still, when I, maybe 4 or 5 months after sleeping for 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day. I would do a warm-up set, maybe 2 warm-up sets on bicep curls or shoulders, a small body part, be exhausted, go home. So it was more debilitating and more upsetting and drove me deeper into the hole because I just couldn't train.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. So it was like 12 months I could not train. I kept trying. And it was probably about the 18-month period after getting the chronic fatigue. Paul Slawinski, who had just gotten into the K1, Paul approached me and said, "Can you strength coach me?" And I went, "Mate, I'm not the guy, I'm not that guy at the moment." And he said, "No, I know you are. I've seen your pictures. I know how big you are." And Paul just wanted to look jacked and destroy people, He didn't know my knowledge of strength conditioning, even though I'd done courses with ASCA, Australian Strength Conditioning Association, level 1 and 2 strength coaching. So I did have a somewhat of knowledge of S&C. So I started training Paul 18 months after, and I started training with him. And that's really what got me back into the gym. So I was training him 3 times a week in the gym, because he was off doing his Muay Thai and kickboxing training and conditioning and all the other days. So I would train with him 3 days a week for about 45 to 60 minutes. I'd be absolutely smashed and go sleep for about 12 to 14 hours. I didn't tell him. About 12 or 14 hours after, I'd go and sleep. So that got me back into consistent training, was strength coaching Paul Slawinski and training with him. That got me into consistent training, and that was 18 months after. It wasn't till about 6 months before Kim Knott ran the Muscle Mania South Australia.
Yes.
So Kim ran it, and I thought, I really want to compete again. I was well enough to be partying a little bit and goofing off and riding Harleys, and I was doing pretty well. I started goofing off a little bit, and I'm like, I need the discipline. I might be able to do this. My health's good enough to be able to carry on and work and party a little bit and socialise. So it was about 6 months out. I called Kim and I said, "Listen, Kim, I'd like to compete at your show. What's the situation? What's the entry?" She goes, "Oh, Nick, that's amazing news. I'll get you to guest pose." And I went, No. I don't know if my health is going to hold up. I'm going to try. I'll try and boost my training up a little bit to 4 days a week, and start to get going and see how my body responds. Because I didn't know if I'd break down again. I didn't know how good my immune system was. So I was doing some psychotherapy as well. I was doing hypnosis to try and program my subconscious to let go of this fear of the depression and not the depression so much. The fear of breaking down, of the fatigue, getting the fatigue when I push myself. So I did some hypnosis work, which I think was really helpful. And I said to Kim, "Listen, don't tell anybody, because I don't know how my health's going to hold up, but maybe I'll give you a call 6 weeks out, let you know how I'm tracking 8 weeks out." She goes, "Okay, but I want you to guest pose. Because of your history, I really want you to guest pose, and I'll pay your trip to Melbourne to the Nationals." Sure enough, went and guest posed. It was one of the best nights of my life just to be able to reclaim my health. So I did that. I guest posed for Kim. She sent me to the Nationals. There was an under 80s and over 80s. I won the unders. I was in pretty good condition. I was feeling great. I won the unders. Alex Simes won the over 80s. Alex was a Kiwi boy. Great physique. In the overall, I'm looking at him. He had veins in his legs, deep separation. He was big. And I thought, he's got me quite easily. I had the shape. Over him. That was it. But they gave it to me. That was a lucky win. You get a couple of shitty decisions, but that was a bit of a lucky one, because Alex was better than me. They came and did the drug testing after straight. Alex shot through. No disrespect, Alex. He took off. He didn't piss in the jar. He took off real quick. God bless him. He's a good boy, Alex. He's a ripper. He's one of a kind. He took off, and I did the piss test, and sure enough, passed that, and went to the Worlds, the Muscle Mania Worlds, 2 weeks later in 2006 in LA. Yeah.
So, and you won that.
Yeah,
you won the overall.
Yeah, I won the overall.
Yeah.
Again, I was...
There was Wasn't Danny Hester in that show? Or?
No, Danny competed the year after against Joel Ramintos, which I emceed. Yeah, yes. 12 months later, Danny Hester did that show, correct. Yep. And he beat Joel Ramintos. Joel got second to him. Yeah. No, there was a lot of good guys. One guy that was in it that became quite popular was Rob Terry. So Rob Terry won the heavies, and he got a wrestling contract with TNA, right, and he became their world heavyweight champion. And English boy, good guy.
Do you know he's back in bodybuilding?
Yeah, I know. He just won the Olympia over there last year. Beat Justin Figueroa.
Yeah, and he won it the year before as well.
Yeah, did he? He's won 2 years in a row.
He's won 2 years in a row.
Yeah, so I competed against him in 2006 in the Muscle Mania. So he's been at it for a while as well. It was a great show. It was an amazing show. It was, insane. There's a long story to it, but I'll make it short. I've gone over on my own with a backpack and an esky. Normally I'd go with an Australian team, a tracksuit, would have all this camaraderie, and the Aussies would be taking on the universe or the worlds. And for me, there was one other Aussie there, Anne Hewitt. I didn't even know Anne though, and I didn't know she was there. But I was over there with a backpack and an esky, and the pre-judging on day one was at the Hilton Universal Walk, so just opposite Universal Studios, the Hilton Hotel, in the ballroom. That's where the pre-judging was. That's where the rego was. So I went to Venice Beach and prepped for about 5 days, caught up with my good mate Jarmo Nazar, bumped into Gary Stridham at the Firehouse and had a meal with him one night because they do all the bodybuilding food. So I was eating out a couple of times a day and training at Gold's and enjoying it. I was doing pretty good. I was in good shape. But again, I was just happy that I'd reclaimed my health and could be doing it. That was it. That was the win for me. Yeah. So I got to the competitors' hotel. Took a cab out there again on my own, backpack, esky, and my food, and just happy to be along for the ride. At the rego, Kim, I was looking around and the guys were jacked, thick forearms, thick traps, and I'm like, what's going on here? This is not clean. What's going on? And I was weighing about 77 kilos. I think I was light. I was really light. And my last show, I was 90 at the NABA Universe, don't forget. So I'm 13 kilos lighter without the juice, but I was probably in better condition. And, I'd lost muscle because I hadn't trained consistently as well. So it wasn't just from not using juice. I don't think the difference is that great when you're applying yourself with the same nutrition and training. But regardless, I was at the rego thinking, this is ridiculous. So I did the rego 10 a.m. and I think the pre-judging started at 2. I'm laying in my hotel room thinking of pulling out, thinking it's a waste of time. What am I doing here? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to Adelaide, compete with the INBA that Kimmo runs because I know it's clean. I know they do their testing. This is rubbish. This is, and I was really upset. I'd psyched myself out completely. I was ready to pack my bags and go home. And then it dawned on me, because I'm on my own, so you're laying there with your thoughts, and in that sort of condition, you've travelled across the world, and there's a lot of head games that happen at contest time, right? So I'd psyched myself out, and then I just snapped out of it and said, listen here, you dickhead. I had a good talk to myself. You're just happy to reclaim your health. You come all the way over here. You're in condition. Just get on stage and do this thing. Just do it. And put some tan on. Start getting ready slowly. And mix up your pump-up drink. And so I've talked myself through it. In my pump-up drink, I always put a lot of creatine, a lot of glutamine, arginine. Citrulline wasn't around back then, so a lot of arginine. Some vitamin B3, I take a lot of niacin, and some carbs. Little bit of salt, I put a little bit of salt in there as well. And the secret ingredient was vodka, Kim. I'd always put a bit of vodka, based on Arnold's comeback when he was talking about Jim Beam, right, back at the 1980 Mr. Olympia at the Opera House there. So always a little bit of vodka, and I got a bit heavy-handed with the vodka, I got to say, to charge up my Dutch courage a little bit. Started putting tan on. As I'm putting the tan on, drinking my pump-up mix, I start feeling pretty confident, as vodka can do. Yeah. So by the time
alcohol makes everything look better.
Everything looks better, exactly. Get those goggles on. Get the goggles on. So I've pumped myself up. I'm feeling pretty good. I got my tan on. I grabbed all my contest stuff, my trunks and everything, my number, and I headed downstairs to the ballroom. And, let's be honest, I was pissed by the time I got down there. I'm staggering in there, feeling 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Again, so I pumped up and I mixed up another pump-up drink because I'd run out of my vodka, basically, and I didn't want to go flat either. I used to put glycerol in it as well to hold my pump. So got on stage, got the first call out, and as I'm looking down the lineup, I'm thinking, I'm actually in this, The guys look thick, they look big, a lot of them, but a little bit off. a little bit thick in the waist. And I'm like, I'm in this middleweight class. I might even make the top 3. So we finished the pre-judging. I grabbed all my stuff. I walked out of the backstage area, and there were all these photographers out in the foyer at the Hilton. Because back then, the Muscle Mania used to have all the photographers that would submit photos to the men's health type magazines and men's fitness type magazines in the US, which there were a lot of. So a lot of them would be cover models and fitness models that were doing Muscle Mania specifically. So it was, the scouts used to go there. Hence, Rob Terry got picked up by the wrestling scouts. So all these photographers...
it also used to be shown on TV and everything.
Yeah. So Lou Zwick used to sell it to ESPN.
That's right.
That's correct. Exactly correct. So that's why the staging and the lighting was so good, you know, and the sound was so good because it would be TV worthy. So Lou Zwick was very, very smart. When I came backstage, these guys are going, oh, do you want to shoot? I'd love to shoot with you. Oh, yeah, I'd love to shoot with you. I'd love to shoot with you. Can you shoot? And I'm looking at these guys, and I'm just thinking they're gay, you know, wanting to take some photos of me for their personal collection. As I got talking to them, they submit photos to the magazines and so forth, and they said, yeah, we've picked you. You'll win your class, and we reckon you're going to win the overall. We think you're going to win the overall. And I'm looking confused and going, I'm the Aussie guy. I was the guy in red. You know, I'm number 78. That was me. Yeah. Because I've got clothes on now. You know, I'm thinking they've got the wrong guy here. Sure enough. I did a couple of shoots, and the finals were the next night in Universal Studios in the Fear Factor stage. Joe Rogan show. Yeah. So there was a stage, I guess, for a Fear Factor show at Universal Studios. Again, the staging, the lighting was beautiful. We did the drug testing. Each class winner did the drug testing, or pissed in a jar. And they did test it because the lightweight guy returned a positive test. Yeah. And they had a pro division and so forth. And sure enough, I won my class and I won the overall. So there I am walking through Universal Studios at midnight, maybe 1 a.m. It was a light drizzle. And I'm glad there was a light drizzle because I'm carrying an overall Muscle Mania trophy in a class win, again with my backpack and esky, on my own. And I had this reflective moment on all I'd been through for the previous 4 years and what I'd just done. And having my health, and I had tears running down my face. And so I'm glad it was raining, because if anyone saw me, I would have been, God, this rain's terrible. Look, the rain's really upsetting, right? So I had no one to party with or anything. I went back to my hotel, ordered some cheesecake off the menu and a burger, and that was it. That was it. So I won the overall Muscle Mania World Championship, which was a prestigious title at the time. It may have been one of the highest natural, most prestigious titles there was. So yeah, it was a bit of a trip.
So by yourself, was it cool being by yourself in a way?
It was like
it would have been really good if you had someone there with you.
Yeah, it wasn't cool being by myself. It wasn't. No. But looking back, it was necessary. Yeah. Because ultimately, I had support from Dr. Frank. He was the main one that gave me support through the fatigue. But ultimately, you have to take responsibility and do it on your own. You have to live with your own thoughts. And your own thoughts can make you toxic, right? Your own thoughts can make you sick. So you need to do this stuff on your own, and it was representative of that. You need to take responsibility for your health on your own. You know, you don't give it over to a doctor, God forbid, you know, you do something like that. You need to take responsibility for your own thoughts, because ultimately, I love Kai Green, right? Kai, everyone thinks he's a bit out there, but your thoughts create your reality. So, and it's very clear, if you ever read anything on quantum physics or metaphysics or the power of thought, it's very clear that your thoughts create your reality, that they create your life, that your thought, everything starts with your thoughts. So it was very representative, again, as bodybuilding is so metaphorical, it was representative of that, Kim. I needed to do that on my own. It was important for me to do it on my own, because ultimately, as much as your loved ones and your family are there for you, you live with your own thoughts. And you go to bed at night, and when you close your eyes, it's you, it's your thoughts. And you have to know that person, you have to get comfortable with that person, you've got to love that person. You've got to, you have to in this lifetime. And it was representative of that, I think, you know. So it was, again, I'm going down the rabbit hole, Kimo, but it was, it would have been cool to share it with someone, but it was something I needed to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's how it worked out.
So you spoke about before you got chronic fatigue that your training was balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Did getting chronic fatigue and then your comeback, did it change your training outlook?
Yeah, good question. It did. Yeah, it did, very much so. And, you know, doing it naturally as well changed it, because your recovery's not as good. I think the Mr. Olympia of that era where you're competing really influences training styles.
Yeah.
Dorian Yates was the guy. And I loved Dorian's approach. I loved his mindset. You know, Dorian, you know, my favourite bodybuilders were certainly Frank Zane, for a number of reasons, but Dorian Yates was one of my other favourites because of his mindset and the way that he trained. So I trained similar to Dorian. That's how I trained for many years. When I came back after the chronic fatigue and was training and competing as a natural bodybuilder, I would cycle my training. So I'd do short bouts of that, no more than 4 weeks of that style of training, 4 weeks. Then I'd do 4 weeks of the old school pyramiding, slightly higher volume, 4 weeks of higher volume again. Then say the next 4 weeks, before I'd go heavy, I'd do some heavy giant sets, trisets, giant sets, but heavy, not this 50 reps per set stuff. I'd do sort of 6 to 8 reps for 3 exercises back to back. So yeah, it did change where I'd start to cycle and periodise my training and go through lighter stages, or stages lighter, just volume, along with load.
Yeah.
But again, no force reps. I stopped doing the force reps for quite some time. No force reps, no negatives. I do drop sets because I train on my own a lot. So I do drop sets, not forced, because it's within your scope. It's within your body's capability to recover muscle tissue as well as central nervous system, as well as immune system, as well as connective tissue.
Yeah.
So it did change.
Yeah. Cool. So you then, that sparked a bit of a burst, and you competed right up until 2009. Where you won a Mike O'Mara. That was an invitational pro show.
It was an invitational, yeah. So after the 06, I turned pro with Muscle Mania, winning that. Yeah. 07, I went, 8 or 9 months later probably, I went and did their Universe show in Miami, which was a totally different experience. The Worlds is a bit sort of higher pressure, a bit more tension, probably a bit more prestigious. This Universe show is sort of a weekend extravaganza, and I did the pro division. I got 6th out of 12. Again, everyone's jacked up, you know. Everyone was jacked. I got to be honest, you know. I stayed with one of the guys in my room. He returned a positive test. Good guy, real good guy. Just part of it, you know. He's a Mexican guy, but a really nice guy. He went positive the following year. He was big shredded. So after that, 2007, I did the pro. I thought it's pointless, you know. I don't begrudge guys using the gear. I really don't care. It's fine, but I just think compete in a non-tested federation if you're going to use gear. I don't. I guess they had nothing else in some of their countries. That was the only federation they had, so I get it. But I don't respect that. As you know, it's one of the things where I draw a hard line. It's like, if you're using juice, compete in a non-tested federation. There's plenty of them. That's right. I don't get that. One thing I do get is people that use juice, and I don't mean this with any disrespect. Actually, I don't really care. Anyone that uses juice and competes in a natural federation has a weakness mentally. Yeah. They have a weakness mentally. And when I talk to people about it in the industry, they always go, oh, but all those natural guys are on the juice. I go, no, they're not. They're not. I sponsor the best natural bodybuilders in the world. I've known them since they were young teenage boys. I know what it looks like when someone's using juice. They've never taken a Dianabol tablet, these guys. I've seen it. They have not. They just haven't. They've chipped away and built maybe 300 grams of muscle every year, maybe 200 grams, maybe lost 200 grams some years and coming in better condition. I've seen it. So the top guys, the top natural guys are not using juice. They're mentally strong, they're disciplined, their work ethic's unbelievable. I agree. So
that's the difference with all of them. And we can mention them.
You know
the Joel Raminterses, the Ben Wortleys,
Nathan Wallace, Justin Figueroa.
The work ethic is, and that's
as high as it gets.
And people come up to me all the time and they'll say, oh, you need gear, you know, these guys are on the gear, and I'm there, no, they're not. They're just outworking you, not by a little bit, a lot. They're outworking you.
Same with the champions on the gear. They're outworking you. That's why they're winning, not because they're using something special or more of. They are outworking you in the gym and the kitchen.
And mentally.
They're outworking
and that's the difference. And when you get to sit down and talk to
someone, even like you now, I can see that difference. And when
Yeah.
I interviewed
I've
Ben
clicked,
Wortley,
I've
you
clicked.
can see the difference in
Yes.
because the
Yes.
mentality, I think, is right up there as one of the most important things.
Yes.
Nothing will get
100%.
in the way of their dream.
Exactly.
Nothing will get in the way of Joel's dream, of Ben Wortley's dream, of these
Exactly.
champions.
Yep.
But the other so-called upcomers, things will get in the way.
Yes.
Other things will get in the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everything
yeah.
has to be just right
Yeah.
before I do this. No,
That's
no,
right.
no. You just do this.
Yeah, and you're
Do
right. That's
this,
the
everything
same
falls into
in
place.
any level of bodybuilding,
Yeah.
and not only that, in any level of sport.
Yeah.
That's why
Any level of business.
the
all of
Olympic
it.
gold medalist and the business person,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're outworking you.
exactly.
Sorry.
Right.
They've got a better mental game and they're outworking you.
That's right.
So yeah, 07, I did that
Yeah.
show, and then I competed in 2009. So that was my last string of shows. I did the amateur section at Tony Doherty's Australian Pro Grand Prix, which was called the Southern States. I won the under 80s. There was no overall. So this is 2009, March 2009. So I did Tony's show, won the amateur section on the day, and Kai Green was backstage. He won the pro show that night, and the winners.
So he was at the pro show.
So the pro show,
okay.
yeah, it was that was a real buzz.
FedEx.
No,
Was
well,
it
it
even
wasn't
FedEx
No,
back
it wasn't
then?
FedEx. No, it wasn't FedEx.
It was
Kim. It was
just a
still the
show.
standalone show with
Yeah.
some booths in the foyer.
Yeah.
And I think it was, where was that one? Wasn't Camberwell? Can't even remember, but it wasn't one of those prestigious ones
No.
around the casino there.
No.
But anyway, yeah, but because I'd won the 80s and the over 80s winner, we got to do our routines before the pros came on at the night show, which was cool. So we were backstage pumping up, and Kai Green was there, and Dexter was there, and Kai was a different level. He was amazing. So that was quite a fun show, Kim. You know, and I won the 80s. A week later, I did the IFBB Australasian in Sydney. First time I'd ever competed in Sydney in my whole bodybuilding career, because Nabba was never really strong there. Did the IFBB Australasian, won the under 80s, competed against Mick Galley and a couple of other mates, and had a ball, had a good time. So won the 80s there was no overall. And then I went to the Mike O'Mara Invitational in Perth a week later. So it was normal for me back then to do 2 or 3 shows in a row.
Yeah.
Because I used to do a state title, a national, and a universe. So it was quite normal. It wasn't that normal previous to do that. Now it's very common. Everyone does a season of shows.
That's right.
But yeah, Mike's show, he put up $4,000 for first place, gave me the invite. And I was small. I was 77.5 kilo over there. I was shredded. And I won $4,000. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. May he rest in peace. God bless him, Luke Wood. I see his brother Adam often, and beautiful family. Such a tragedy. But I remember that year thinking, bloody hell, I've won more than Luke Woods won this year. I won $4,000. I just won $4,000 doing an amateur bodybuilding show. So Mike's a good guy over there in Perth. He gives the bodybuilders what they want. He puts up money. He's still doing it. He's still doing it. That was my last show. Yeah. 2009, March. 10 years ago, Kim.
10 years ago.
10 years.
So what happened then? Just other things took priority?
Yeah, business, and I started a family. So I met my beautiful wife, Angela, she did that show. She did the invitational show with me. She got 3rd in the category she did. So I'd met Ange. When did we meet? 2008 we met. So yeah, I'd fallen in love with this beautiful Greek girl and scared the shit out of me because I thought she could be the one. It scared the shit out of me, to be honest. She just ticked all the boxes, and I'd fallen in love with her, and she was unlike any woman I've met.
You were dating before that?
Yeah, we started to... So I being the good guy I am, I met her at City Gym. Charlie Duker introduced us on a work trip to Sydney. She was training in City Gym. She was teaching in City Gym. And I met her, and I never talk to girls in the gym, you know. I train, no matter where I was at with my bodybuilding career, I love to focus and train hard. And even if I'm not training heavy, I like to be mindful. But anyway, Charlie insisted. Angela was getting ready for her first show. I got to be honest, I did notice her on the aerobics room floor, because I was up in the aerobics room floor doing my warm-up activation before training, and I noticed this blonde girl with a red top who was shredded, had abs and delts and looked great, and she was attractive, and I did notice her. So Charlie introduced us on the gym floor. I met her. She was working in the medical field, selling medical devices full-time to hospitals. She had an exercise science degree, and she was teaching Les Mills pump and RPM, or spin. in the evenings at various gyms, and she was getting ready for her first show. So she was a good communicator. She was attractive. She could sell. The good guy I am offered her a sponsorship, Kim. Right? And to be honest, I was legit. I was actually legit. I thought she's going to be great. I was trying to rebuild a brand in Sydney, it was a long story, but the short of it is, I sponsored her. We became friends for 3, 4, 5 months, and legit at the start, I was, she's just a sponsored athlete, and she's lovely. Yeah, she's attractive, but she's an athlete, and she's helping with the business. And yeah, it was about 4, 5 months later, maybe we got together. So then, yeah, she was with me during those shows. She did those shows. Didn't do as well as she wanted, so she competed later that year in the Musclemania. We both went to Vegas, and I didn't compete in it, obviously. I was getting fat and happy, but she did. I took her to Vegas. She did the Musclemania. She got 2nd or 3rd in her class. I thought she was going to win it. So yeah, that's what happened then. Was I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years in, Ange fell pregnant to our first daughter, Electra. So I just got focused. And the other reason I didn't compete, I'd opened a world gym in Adelaide, in the CBD. So I was juggling my time between opening this world gym, trying to run Gentech, which I started to do very poorly, and let that run down the drain, really, with sales, because I was focused on this gym. So really, it was business, my relationship, no time for competing, and then when she fell pregnant with Electra, we decided to up and move to Sydney, because the gym, my partnership had gone bad in the gym. I felt like I needed a fresh start. I still had Gentech and could go to Sydney and start driving that, and we could be near my in-laws. And my wife's Greek, so my mother and father-in-law, Kim, let me tell you, they'd take a bullet for my kids. It's their life. So I'm very, very pleased we moved to Sydney, and we had that support, particularly Ange had that support. Because when we went to Sydney, I had a financial nosebleed. I had to rebuild Gentech. I was in a bad situation. I won't say how bad it was and get into it, but I was in a really bad financial and business situation when I moved to Sydney. So I moved to Sydney then, and double the rent I was paying in Adelaide as Sydney is, double the living expenses as Sydney is. We were going to go down to one wage. I had to rebuild Gentech from the ground up. And I was in a big financial hole from my business dealings at the gym, and I had to work hard. Kim, I've been working my ass off for the last 8 years, so that's why I haven't competed. And we've had 2 more children, so I've got 3 beautiful children. I own my home. I've got a commercial property there in Sydney, so I've been working very hard for 8 years and been very dedicated to my family and wife for the last 8 years. So there was really no time or energy for bodybuilding. And I was enjoying my Arakan martial arts so much. I had goals within that. So that was probably my release and my focus. But I've always weight trained still. I still train 4 days a week whilst doing Arakan. Yeah. So that's it, and that brings us to today, basically.
And you're prepping now.
I'm prepping now. Yeah.
So you're the big 10-year comeback.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's it's a big 10-year comeback. So the Arnold Classic is 7.5 weeks out now.
So you're doing the qualifier, New South Wales qualifier?
Doing the New South Wales qualifier in 4.5 weeks, and I'm doing the classic physique division.
That's the first of the qualifiers, isn't it? Is it?
I think it might be.
First?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But it's still 3 weeks out from the Arnold.
It'd be a tough 3 weeks, that one. Yeah. It's going to be tough because I've got to be ready. I can't get on stage and say, I'm 90% ready because I'm focused on the Arnold. Yeah. After 10 years, I've got to be ready when I get on stage in 4.5 weeks. Yeah. I need to be ready. I have to be ready.
You feel pressure?
I feel more pressure from myself. I don't feel pressure from others. I train with
Joel. You put
it
out there that you're going to compete.
Yeah, very much so. We're making a doco. We're making a doco called Inspired. So it's out there that I'm competing. I don't really feel any pressure. I was with Joel Ramintos last night, and he said, everyone expects you to win, and or they expect you're Nick Jones. They expect you to be something really special. And I said, you know what? My mentality, my approach to it is, I'm not going to be the biggest I've ever been. I can't be. I've got to weigh in. I've got to make weight at 82.5 kilos for my height. So I won't be my biggest. That's a guarantee. I'm not being negative, but I won't be. It's a guarantee. I can't be. I have to make weight. I want to do the classic physique based on all the criteria. It suits me, and I don't want to risk my health. I don't want to carry that much muscle to be 90 kilos on stage, Kim. I don't want to. This was a 19-week prep from predominantly doing Arakan to 19 weeks. Let's see what I can do.
Yeah.
Let's see what I can do in 19 weeks at 47 years of age whilst juggling family and business. Let's see. I kept saying to my Arakan instructor for the last 4 years, Jay, I reckon if I did 20 weeks prep, I could win a national title. I reckon I could do it in 20 weeks. It's been 19. So I just, a little bit more pressure, But for me, if one aspect of my game can be the best of my entire career, that's success to me. Love to win. And to be honest, I have to win. I have to win, Kim. I have to win. And that's me. I have to. I'm representing my brand, my family, and myself. I have to win.
Yeah.
But for me, the biggest thing, if I can be the best in my career and life at one part of my game, that's a win for me. And that is condition. If I can bring my best ever condition, and I believe I can, if I can do that, that's a win. If I can,
that was my next question. You're going to bring your best condition?
Best, I have to.
Yeah.
I have to, because that's success to me.
Yes.
That's success. Again, like I've experienced, I won the NABBA Worlds when I wasn't my best, and it wasn't a great experience. I got 4th at the NABBA Universe when I was my best.
Yeah.
And that was a great experience. So if I can be my best condition, I can't be my biggest. Not possible. I won't make weight.
Yeah.
Don't want to be that big anyway. But if I can be my best condition, that's the win for me. That's success. That's one part of my game. If one part of my game, one aspect can be the best of my life, that's success. I'll be happy. And I'll do that. I have to do that for myself. That's for myself. So I think the pressure that I put on myself, probably same as my natural guys, probably same as a lot of successful bodybuilders and people. It's the pressure and expectation that I have of myself that drives me to be my best, not the expectation of others. It doesn't drive me. It doesn't really drive me, to be honest. It really doesn't. Honestly, it does not drive me.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that pressure, no. But in that, it's just like a given that I have to win. It's sort of I do have to win. I do have to, but I don't feel a pressure, because that's out of my control.
Yeah.
The winning's out of my control, the placing's out of my control, but the conditioning and the package and the presentation, that's in my control.
Yeah. So you committed to this 19 weeks.
Yes.
To get ready. Where on the scale of Nick Jones's life is this prep?
Good question.
In terms of, you've got family, you've got business, you've got your training, you've got the whole comp prep. Where does that come into? Like, you obviously spoke to Angela and say, right, this is 19 weeks now. Where does that fit in now?
It's a really good question, because it's changed as time's gone on. At the start, I kept saying to Ange, if I become a shit dad, I pull out of the show. If it affects our family negatively, I pull out of the show.
Yeah.
Right. And that's me. That's not her putting it on me. That's me. And that's my expectation as well. My kids don't deserve a shitty dad because he's getting ready for a bodybuilding show and wants to flex his muscles and look great and have good abs. They don't deserve that. So at the start of my prep, that was the mindset. At the start of my prep, it was, let's see what we can do in 19 weeks. And this fire starts to burn. This dragon inside of me gets woken up. It starts to burn harder and harder and harder, to the point where I'm not being a shit dad, but I'm starting to suffer a little bit. When people ask, how you going? You look like you still got energy and you look good. And I tell everyone I'm great, And I keep telling myself I'm great, because it's important, because we believe ourselves,
Right.
But I'm starting to suffer. By the time I get home in the evening, I'm absolutely exhausted at the moment. I do my very best to help with the bedtime routine and the dinner and read. I've got a great book I'm reading. I'm reading a book. I'm reading Way of the Warrior Kid by Jocko Willink. I love Jocko's podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I don't listen to his podcast much. I listen to some excerpts, but I loved him on Joe Rogan and so forth. So I'm reading that to a lecture at the moment. So there's a bit of motivation, because it's a good book. So at least I try and read. I try and help with the bedtime routine. I try and juggle business. At this stage of the prep, my body fat would be around 5%. My skin folds are below 30 now, over 9 sites. They're 27 over 9 sites, so I'm getting there. So I'm suffering a bit. The mindset has changed. I've become obsessed with the training, with the nutrition, with the conditioning. I'm juggling business still. I'm juggling family. I'm doing it all as best I can. I'm still very mindful of being the best dad and husband that I could be. that I can be. But this dragon is awake, the fire's burning. If you said to me, Nick, to be your best condition ever, to win this competition, you see that wall, you have to fucking run through that wall. I'd run through the wall.
Yeah.
So this has been reignited, and which I didn't think it would. I didn't really want it to. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing, and it's not like I'm out of control. I'm very much in control. I'm very much in control to the point where it's funny when you're prepping for a show, you get so organized with your food, with your training. I have to be a little bit flexible with my training because of family commitments. But Angie's been great. At the start, there was a bit of a shift, a little bit of a struggle. But she's really on board, and your family does need to be on board.
Yeah,
you know that, your
right.
whole family. So my kids are understanding, my girls are understanding of what's going on. Electra's 7, Mariah's 6, little Xander's 2.5. So he doesn't know. He just misses daddy if I'm away working here, or or I get home a bit later. But again, I try and get all my training in within my work time, so I get home at normal time still.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate with my work. I've got a gym in the office, so I train there 90% of the time. So I'm good with my time. But when you get
Good to have your own gym, isn't it?
Oh, it's great, yeah, Kimo, isn't it just? Isn't it? I don't have to wait for any equipment though. If I don't want anyone in there, no one's in there. Whereas you got to pay the bills there.
Yes,
So it's great. But it's funny how that organisation with everything flows to the rest of your life. So I don't waste any time at work. At work, I'm very organised. I'm very productive. I get more done within a good 6-hour block at work than I would at any other time.
I found the same when I did my comeback a few years ago, and at that time I had 4 businesses.
Yeah.
But I found the routine of work made the prep easier actually.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, because you're doing stuff and all of a sudden you go, oh shit, I've got to eat now. Whereas if you're not doing something, then you're just thinking about food all the time or whatever. Whereas, I've just come off the back of school holidays. The kids are still on school holidays, so Angie's got all 3. I went back to work 2 weeks ago, had 3 weeks off. That was hard. School holidays was hard. Yeah, I could imagine. It'd be a lot harder than in the routine of work.
Yeah. And then keeping up with 3 kids, especially my little toddler, little savage, going through the terrible 2s. Yeah. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting how the prep does that, But then it's interesting how my mentality's changed. My drive has changed. It's clicked in. Something's snapped. Something's clicked. It's like this dragon's woken up.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Cool. We'll just touch a little bit more on your prep. There's a lot of contention or discussion always on Facebook about comp prep coaches, and some they advertise our client, we don't do any cardio. What do you like? Do you incorporate cardio into your prep? It seems to be the question everyone is talking about, cardio for prep or cardio not for prep. I mean, when in the old days we used to do cardio for hours. We were shredded. We were shredded. You were shredded. Everyone, even I've seen a shift now. 5-6 years ago, even in the naturals, the champions were shredded. Now they're not. They might be bigger, but they haven't got that condition.
Is that right?
Yeah, that they had 6 years ago. Remember when Carlos used to compete and all these guys? They were shredded. And Carlos did 3 hours of cardio a day.
It is. I think it's a sign of the times, Kim. I think again, like we said before, the ones that are winning, the champions,
are doing the work.
They're doing the work.
Yeah.
They have this work ethic. Again, I don't mean this with any disrespect. I think that the new age kids, the young people coming through, I think there's so much distraction for them these days that I don't know, they don't seem, sounding old and cynical, they don't seem to suffer as much as we have suffered in the past.
No,
they don't. And with the whole cardio thing, I've always done cardio. Upon rising, go for a power walk. To be honest, I haven't done any of this prep.
Yeah.
And it's not because I've read any discussions or anything like that. It's a time factor for me. I get up in the morning and start doing brekkie for the kids, but in saying that, my skin folds are coming down every week, and they're down very close to where they need to be. So again, I would do cardio, previously up until my skin folds were low enough, and then I'd back it right off and start posing in the mornings more than doing the cardio. So, because my skin folds are coming down with the manipulation in nutrition and the amount of training I'm doing, and I'm training more than I used to. I used to train 4 days a week. 5 was the most I've ever trained. Now I train 6. And that 6th day, I'll do some cleans and presses to stimulate the metabolism to warm up, just very light. I'll do all my warm-up activation, I'll do a bit of posing, and then I'll just top up on my weak body parts, so upper chest and arms. I'll just top up on those with a bit of volume work. So, yeah, I'm not doing cardio, but I'm watching it. If you know, and again, the skin folds might start dropping. It might be this week when I do skins. If they haven't come down, I'll start doing cardio in the mornings, and that's it. Yeah, that's
doing your own prep.
Of course.
Yeah.
of course, mate. As if it comes to I've walked to the top of Mount Everest of bodybuilding. You know, I've done it. I don't need a guide. I've done it. I know the way. Yeah. I've done it. And that was one thing in the old days. There really weren't any contest preps. There wasn't any. No. The local guy at the gym that had competed a couple of times would give you a diet or give you some tips, and off you'd go and you'd work it out. Read magazines and the mags used to be good back then. There was some good articles. Yeah. So I think the internet's made things harder. There's such an overload in information. And again, everyone's looking for a system that's easier.
Yeah. I think what the internet has done, and social media and even the overabundance of coaches, is they've complicated something that's quite simple.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because then, you know, the client, if it looks that complicated, the client looks at it and goes, I can't possibly do this myself.
That's right.
And this coach has a system. It'll be the such and such method. Whatever method they've termed it a method, and which is fine. But if your method is about restricting calories slightly under what you're burning, with adequate amounts of protein to build muscle and recover muscle tissue, you know, it's probably a good method. You know, that's probably a good method. And doing the work in the gym, consistently trying to overload, whether it's through sheer weight or volume, overload in the gym so you can build muscle and restrict your calories a little bit, keep your protein high enough to recover and grow.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's a good method. Yeah. So yeah, I've done it. Yeah, it's funny. Some people ask me, "You got a coach?" And it's like, dude, no. I could coach probably most of these coaches if I so chose to.
That's right.
With no disrespect to them, there's some very good. I know some very, very good ones. So there's no disrespect to them, but there's probably some not so good ones as well, I'm sure.
Exactly right. Well, thanks for that. That was a really good insight. Before we wrap it up, because like I said, we could go on for 8 hours.
I know.
Tell me just, you've brought on Justin Wessels.
Yes.
Onto the Dentec crew, which is really, really exciting. Yeah. And how's Justin tracking for his pro debut?
Okay, so Justin, let me give you a brief background. Justin and I we did our first NABA Universe together on the Aussie team in '97.
Yeah.
So we did the Nationals. I won Class 4. He won Class 2. Kicked everyone's ass in the overall. And we both went to England. It was Birmingham to the NABA Universe in '97. So this is 22 years ago. So my friendship sort of started with Justin back then. My exposure to Justin. And he was a copper at the time in Darwin. And the guys out of Northern Territory were good. Since then, he's become a fiery aviation at the airports. Justin, you know, we're mates and we'd catch up in Sydney, you know, rarely, even though he's based at Sydney Airport. So it was 2.5 years back. And we had a couple of workouts now and then. We caught up and trained a few times. And he came in, he called me and said, Nick, I really want to see you. I said, all right, no worries. Came in and he saw me and he goes, mate, he said, I'm not straight out asking for a sponsorship, but, you know, he goes, I think there's a lot that I can do. I can be a good representative for your business, and I think you can help me with what you do with your filming and your social media. And we talked, and I said, well, it's a given. Yes, the answer's yes. Let's just work out how best to do it. What do you want? What do I want? We worked it out. Justin hadn't won any international titles by that stage.
Yeah, but he's never been defeated here either.
Never been beaten on Australian soil, ever. From being a junior.
22 years? Yeah.
Well, 94, I think he competed as a junior.
Yeah.
94, so it was 97 he came back as an open and won his class in the overall. Never beaten in Australia. But never won that. Again, he got third at the Universe, was his highest placing, that elusive Universe. And he did it probably 5 times as well, I reckon. So I got talking to him, and I'm not saying it's for Gentech, but it's a little bit of magic that happens, because it happened with Tim Martin as well. Never won an international show.
Yeah.
Sponsored him. 6 months later, his next show, he won I don't know, a pro world or something, a world championship in the States. So, yeah, so Justin went and won the NABBA Worlds in Brazil about 4, 5, 6 months after we organised the sponsorship deal, which was so good to see him win an international title. The following year, he went back to Russia, defended it, won the Masters Worlds in Russia, got mobbed there. He was the most conditioned guy in the show, the freakiest guy in the show, even though he was the Masters winner. He could well have won the overall. And certainly from accounts I heard, he would have won Class 2. So he's backed that up, and then he thought, I'm on a roll, 4 months times the NABBA Universe, never won a Universe. One other Australian, being Graham Lansfield, has ever won the Masters Universe, one in history. Very historical show, very prestigious show still. Yeah. And so he won the Masters Universe easy. And I remember watching the live telecast on the internet, and the English guy said, I think Justin was number 15 or something, he goes, if number 15 doesn't win this, I'll eat my socks. And I'm like, because it's hard to tell. You're looking at the computer screen. Yeah. I'm like, I thought he was looking good. So he won that. And then, of course, the rest of the history is he went and won last year's Nationals at the IFBB Pro League after winning the New South Wales. He jumped over and won his pro card, and he got the invite to the Arnold Classic. Yeah. So one of the reasons for me doing this show was to be able to get workouts in and prep with my good mate, and it's a good story. It's a good story for Gentech too. Yeah. He's getting ready for his pro debut at 46 years of age. I'm getting ready for my 10-year comeback at 47. We're a couple of old boys, but we're doing all right, We're doing pretty good. Justin has had more personal challenges this prep than he's had in his life, right? So his dad's been fighting cancer for about 5 years, I think. Got over it, was doing pretty well, went downhill again. And again, his dad, Jeff, was in Sydney just over 12 months ago. He came down for a couple of days, and they went out riding the Harleys for the day, and we all caught up for dinner. And I met Jeff back in 97. He came to the NABBA Universe. And I don't know if it was so much to watch his son. He had a couple of girlfriends over there, as the story goes. God bless him. May rest in peace. He's a real good Aussie bloke, Jeff. Really good, Justin was born and bred in Darwin. They're just good, honest, straight up gentleman blokes, they're good guys. So Justin has been visiting his dad often. I think it's Magnetic Island off Townsville. Yeah. His dad lives on an island. He'd been visiting him regularly, trying to keep his training up, watching his dad deteriorate. Said goodbye to him a few days before Christmas when he came back to Sydney, and he'd moved him into palliative care because he wasn't looking too good. Justin was going to Perth then with Amy Fox, his fiance, for Christmas with Amy's family, New Year's over in Perth, and their engagement party with Amy's friends over there. So again, Justin's trying to diet, prep for his pro debut, big show. He's got these social events on. It's Christmas time. His dad's dying, and he's trying to keep it all together. And he's a bulletproof guy, right? He really is as solid as a rock. I think it was the day before they left to Perth, like 2 days before Christmas, his dad passes away. So he was obviously devastated. He was his best mate. He was very close to his dad. He was his best mate. It wasn't like, my situation at all, where dad left when I was very young. So it was obviously very hard for him. I said, you're obviously not going to Perth. And he goes, no, I'm going to go. We're going to hold the funeral off. I've got to follow through on this commitment. He's just Justin's bullet. Once he makes a commitment, he'll follow through. If he says to you, Kim, I'll be there, or yes, I'll do it, he will do it. He will be there. So he went over to Perth and had to do the celebrating, and he had to do his contest prep and diet and train, and flew back to Sydney one night, picked up his food for fitness, and went up to his dad's funeral, buried his dad, did the eulogy. All his dad's mates from Darwin and Cairns, some of them rode their Harleys. They came down. His dad wasn't a club guy or anything, but loved his bikes, loved fishing, loved camping, loved a real Aussie, good guy, So Justin spent time with those guys and said goodbye to his dad properly. Obviously, I communicated with Justin regularly throughout it, and he went off the track for about 3 days, I think, and needed to do that. Obviously, needed to do that because we did an interview last week. So I know he wouldn't mind me sharing this information. So he needed to do that, and then came back to Sydney. We caught up to train his second day back. The following day he was back, and again he had clicked. He said, Nick, I've done what I needed to do. I said goodbye to Dad properly. I went on a bender. I had some drinks with his mates. I had to drink some rum with him. It felt right. But with Justin, he goes, so I'm a few weeks behind. So for 3 weeks, he hasn't had a junk meal. He's been training twice a day and doing cardio 3 times a day. So Justin is, and this is something that I don't recommend because Justin is a veteran and he knows his body well, but it's like the magician's the timekeeper. He won't tell you he's got to drop so much percentage or so much weight or this much skin fold this week, next week. He won't tell you what he's got to do in 3 weeks, like week by week. It's like he knows how much volume or how much work it's going to take to get that result. And whether he does that in 3 weeks or 6 weeks to get from point A to point B before he gets to point C at contest time, he knows the amount of work that it's going to take rather than the amount of time. And it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in the last 3 weeks since he's been back in Sydney. I've seen him drop 6 kilos in 3 weeks. And he's full, he's hard, he's focused, he's in this thing 100%. So it's fascinating to watch, and it's great to be a part of and share the time and experience with Justin. It's great. This will be one of the highlights of my bodybuilding career, the prep. I don't even know about the show. I don't know. We'll see. But the prep so far, it's a highlight and it's very special day by day.
Yeah.
Because my kids are involved, my wife's involved, my business is involved. We're filming a doco. I'm alongside Justin Wessels, who's doing his pro debut. And I found out the other day he's guest posing at the New South Wales.
Oh, right.
And I just got this warm feeling come over me. I said, you know what? I'm so happy to be sharing the same stage with you on the same day in very different circumstances to what we're used to. I mean, shit, I'm doing a classic physique routine and competing at a New South Wales. And you're a pro bodybuilder, IFBB pro guest posing. So very different situation, but a great situation. Great story.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
It
really
will be.
awesome.
I think that's what made the Arnold Australia exciting.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
there's 3 good Australian bodybuilders in this lineup, but just to see Justin finally on stage as a pro, I think is exciting. It's exciting for Australian bodybuilding.
It is, isn't it? And the exciting thing is he's not going to be as big as the other boys.
No, he's not, but I think he's going to bring a level of conditioning that's just going to scare even some of the pros.
It's not seen anymore, Kim.
No,
It's gone. That
even the
conditioning
pros don't even have that conditioning.
No, and they'll say that. Josh Lenardowitz says that conditioning. I've never seen conditioning like that. It went with Dorian Yates. It went with Dorian. We haven't seen it since Dorian. We haven't seen it since Dorian, and Justin's got it.
That's right.
And he'll bring it. He'll bring it. But I'm telling you, 3 weeks ago, you would have looked at him and gone, oh shit, he's not going to do it. But 3 weeks of the volume of work and the suffering that he's prepared to go through.
Yeah.
And again, people do ask me often, how does Justin get that condition? Do you know? And I said, yeah, I do. Do you want me to tell? I'll tell you in one word. I'll tell you in one word. They go, really? What is it? What does he do? Suffers.
Yeah.
More than anyone else.
That's right.
He suffers more than anyone.
Goes back to what we were talking about before.
Yep.
Yeah.
He suffers more than anyone and doesn't complain about it. He just slows down. He slows down. When you see him, he's slowed right down. 3 weeks out of a show, you catch up with him between workouts, between meals, whatever. He slows down. Doesn't have much energy.
All right. We're pretty close. There's one more thing I want to ask you about.
Yep.
And that's this email you sent me.
Oh, yes.
And it says on here, I don't know if it's Justin who we were talking about, but I just signed a potential superstar.
Oh, no. No, this is something really exciting. And I can say it now. We haven't announced it on social media yet. There's a guy called Alex Simon in Sydney. Alex was a powerlifter. Is a powerlifter. Alex trained for 3 years in powerlifting from zero to hero. And he did that international Big Dogs powerlifting show in Melbourne. And it's an international powerlifting meet. He got equal third. So Alex squats over 400. I saw him squat 435 in the gym in a video the other day. Kilos. 435 kilos, right? So he totaled just under 1100. And of course, like every powerlifter, he believed he had more in him because he didn't get the depth on his... Was it his squat? No, it wasn't the depth on his squat. He didn't get the hold on the deadlift for long enough. He stood up with it. Started with it, held it, stood up straight, then dropped it. Easy. And they didn't give it to him because he didn't stand there and wait for the lights.
Yeah.
So anyway, Alex is a beast. So, you know, he squats 400, deadlifts over 400, think he benches 280 or something like that. He's a beast of a man. So he's swapped over and he's been doing MMA for 12 months, just over 12 months. And he's only had 5 pro fights. One of them he broke the guy's neck. Just obviously must have been a fracture. I know which one. I've seen the footage. He's a beast of a man. He's on Instagram as Godly Strong. You got to have a look. I know. I'm friends with Jeff Fennick's right-hand man in Sydney, Basil. I did a bit of boxing with Baz, and he holds pads. And I was speaking to him about him, and he goes, "Mate, I've heard about this guy. Jeff held pads for him." Alex doesn't say too much.
Yeah.
Jeff held pads for him. He said he was sore for a week. His chest was torn, and he said, "I won't hold pads for him. No way."
Yeah.
The heaviness of this guy's hands, the power. Everyone's pulling out. He can't get a fight. But this guy, I'm excited because he's not accomplished yet in MMA. He's pretty accomplished in powerlifting. He's got the mind game. He's got the mindset to become a heavyweight world champion.
Yeah.
Main issue, he's 153 kilos still. He got up to 180 for big dogs. 181 kilos body weight. He's a big boy. Greek boy. He's Greek.
Yeah.
Big Greek boy. Good guy. Good guy. He's a lovely guy. But he's got the animal in him. You can see it in his eyes. He's got it in him, which you need to be a great fighter. So I reckon if injuries don't hold him up, Alex will go all the way. Even though he's only been doing just over 12 months, we don't sponsor any fighters these days. Yeah. So I'm excited. I think it's huge because I think he will be huge. Just that he needs some more pro fights. Joe Rogan likes his stuff and sends him messages because the power is his trainers. Some of his trainers have been interviewed, and they've been holding pads for 30 years, and they train with one of them's James Tahuna's brother. So James Tahuna fought in the UFC a number of times. Yeah. His brother said, "I've never felt power like it." And the interviewer said, "What would your advice be for someone that's fighting Alex, has to fight Alex?" He said, "My advice, if you're fighting Alex, he's a big guy. The power's like nothing you've ever felt. Get out of the cage." That's my advice. That's my advice. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about having Alex on board. But the thing is, the UFC heavyweights have to be under 120. So he's got to lose over 30 kilo and still maintain his power. It's a lot to lose, right? Yeah. He's not real disciplined with his food, so I'm trying to work with him with the Gentech subs and his diet, and I want to slowly work with him, bring his body weight down, and he started strength training a bit more again. So he's just got to make sure he stays injury free, but he's got the mind game, he's got the self-belief, and he's a freak of an athlete. So check him out, Godly Strong.
I will.
That's on Instagram, Godly Strong. Alex Simon, and he's a sweetheart. He's a good guy, but he's worth watching because I back him. I reckon he'll go all the way, Kim.
Yeah.
I back him.
Cool. Gentech is going to be at the Arnold Classic?
No, we're sponsoring the whole event again, as we did last year. We're sponsoring it. We're not doing a booth. I'd committed to doing it. I did commit, and I called Tony. Once I decided to compete, I'm like, I can't do the booth. I can't do that and compete. So much work to put the booth together.
Yeah.
So much. And then the amount of energy output for the 3 days at the expo, I can't. It's not possible. So I called Tony and said, "Mate, I got good news and bad news. What do you want?" And he goes, "I'll start with the bad news so we can finish on a good note." I said, "Mate, I got to pull out of the booth. I know I've put the deposit down, but I can't do it." He goes, "Oh, but Jonesy, you got to." And I said, "Well, I'll give you the good news. The good news is I'm competing, so I cannot do it." But yeah, we're sponsoring the live stream as we did last year. We may have a spot on one of the big retailers there. We might have a spot on his stand.
Yeah.
So that way, at least my athletes will be there promoting the brand, and I'll be able to do a bit of time there. Justin can do some time there. So yeah.
No worries. How do people see you on social media? What's the best place to have?
Best place, my personal social media, I'm pretty slack, but I'm Nick Jones World Champion on Instagram.
Yep.
And then we've got the Gentech Facebook page, the Gentech Instagram page, the Gentech YouTube channel, and that's where the doco is. So episode 1 of the doco is out. We're editing episode 2 this week. So I just filmed in Sydney day before yesterday. I did some lifestyle stuff. Justin's doing some really good stuff on Friday. We're doing some lifestyle stuff this week. Yeah. Justin has the videographer going to the fire station at Sydney Airport. So he's going to get some lifestyle stuff at work. Last week we had a great shoot. I had Jeff Jowett, Aussie Jeff. He interviewed Justin, interviewed myself. He did a self-interview. He interviewed Paul Haslam, one of Australian great bodybuilders and probably, the best trainer in the country, best prep coach. So we've got some really cool stuff coming in episode 2. So check out our YouTube channel for episode 2.
It's Gentech on YouTube.
Gentech, Gentech on YouTube. Gentech Nutrition on YouTube. Find it easy.
Great.
Yeah.
Nick Jones, thanks for the chat.
No, my pleasure, Kim. Thanks for having me.
No worries. We'll have you back because we can still go for another 6
We could. We'll talk ear off a donkey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kimo.
No worries. Thanks, mate. Appreciate
See you, mate.
it.
Bye.